Good morning! Good morning everyone! It's our second day and we're excited to go to St. Andrews. So we just left the place where we stayed last night. So guys, now we're going to get breakfast before we head to our tour at the chocolate factory. So I'm gonna show you. I don't know if it's allowed to take video inside. I'm gonna take a video for the whole tour so you can see the chocolate factory. Those people who's addicted to chocolate there, watch out. See ya. We're here at Tim Hortons. So we get our breakfast.
Yes, we have our breakfast.
And our coffee, big coffee. So now we're going by the water while waiting for our tour. While waiting for our tour. So just watch out and wait for that, guys. I'll show you the tour, the chocolate museum. At the park. So, main USA na po siya. It's cool like you just have to go by boat, then you're at the US. Going to start on our tour at the Chocolate Museum. There.
Teresa, and I'll be taking you guys on the tour today.
Perfect.
So we can head in on here.
Okay. Here, you go first.
Tour.
So the building we're in right now is the old Ganong chocolate factory. But before we can talk about the Ganongs and the history of St. Stephen and their business in it, we of course have to talk about the history of chocolate. So chocolate has existed in some form for almost 3,000 years.
Okay.
But the original form is not something most people want to be eating. Well, I suppose eating is not the right word. It was a drink. So
Okay.
it was a drink, and it was essentially chocolate nibs, so the cocoa bean crunched up. So 100% dark chocolate, cold water, spices.
Yummy.
Yeah, it was kind of, maybe you
Yeah, that one is big in Philippines too.
Is it really? Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's kind of it's an interesting thing, and actually the chocolate that we have now isn't actually that old. It was
Okay.
invented somewhere between the 1700s and the 1800s. And we've been making chocolate ever since, but in the grand scheme of history, chocolate is relatively new.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so then we've got, this is a chocolate pod, and they grow on trees, and so that's what
Cacao.
a cocoa bean comes
Cocoa,
from.
yeah.
That's about the exact shape and size of a real pod.
Hmm.
And then on the inside, they're actually pink.
That's
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
That's yummy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
You haven't tried that yet, strawberry cream chocolate.
As each candy leaves the machine, a little nozzle
Have you
squirts
tried it?
chocolate on top.
Maybe. I
This
don't know.
mechanically
Looks
creates a
yummy.
unique design for each type of candy, much
Do they
like the
still have
designs
it
that human
today?
dippers were creating by hand earlier. After the chocolates go through cooling tunnels, they're collected and placed on trays, ready to be packed into boxes. Now we're on the top floor, where the old plant's box making shop
I'm gonna
was
tell
located.
you a secret.
Gnomes used to make all of their own boxes. Here we see Kurt feeding cardboard into a
I'm gonna tell you
story
something,
sheet
guys.
to prepare it to make
Don't
a
you know
box.
that one of
Next,
my
notches out the corners so that the box can be formed
how do you say it?
properly.
One of my dream
In
jobs
this next
before,
step,
when I was still young,
covering the
is
box
to
with
work in
paper,
a chocolate
also
factory.
extra strength.
It's weird.
Using a paintbrush, she paints the table with hot glue, dips the pin in the glue, and making sure there are no wrinkles in it, applies the paper to the box. Adds a gold cord to the box, which is then packed into a carton or display unit of the sort you see in stores. These are cherry center chocolates going through the same process.
Those are my dad's favorite chocolates, cherry.
I think, until now, I still want to work in a chocolate factory.
In 1990, Ganong invested several $1 million to construct a new state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in St. Stephen at 1 Chocolate Drive, and expanded this new factory again in 2003. As we finish our tour of Ganong's original plant, we come back to the chocolatier, which still has the historic look of an old-fashioned candy store. Indeed, the chocolatier is very much a specialty store, carrying all of Ganong's handcrafted products, as well as the company's other candies and chocolates. Be sure to drop in for a visit and enjoy.
Nice to see kind of how they used to make chocolate.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, a
The
lot
amount
of
of work done by hand.
Yeah, a lot of it is still very similar. Because
Is that
a lot
right?
of the machines are still kind of, they were moved from one factory to the
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
I mean, we do have some new ones, obviously.
Right.
Same.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I like the iron trying to.
Yeah, that was neat, eh? Wow.
From 1900, things have changed a
Wow.
lot.
Incredible, eh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And this is where the original store that Gilbert and James opened up
Okay.
was. It's not this. A lot of people see the name Ganong and think this is the store.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was actually farther down the street that
Okay.
way. It's not quite in the picture.
Yep.
And it's
Oh,
not here
okay.
anymore because it burned down.
Okay.
It's crazy, look at it.
It's amazing, eh?
Yeah, that trolley car, we don't have that anymore.
No, it's right.
But it actually used to go straight into Maine, and you could just go right on it. You didn't have to
Okay.
stop at the border or anything. It just went straight through.
Back when
And
life was
there-
different, eh?
Yeah.
Crossing the
Really
border,
different.
nothing.
Yeah, there wasn't.
And their means of transportation is the
Horse
horses.
and buggy.
Yeah, the
Oh,
horses. And the sidewalks, you can't really tell, but they're actually wooden.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot has changed. You know,
Wow.
every once in a while you will still see a horse walking down the street in St. Stephen, but you know that's just because we have a lot of people in town who have horses.
Right, exactly.
And not because it's everybody's remote
Yeah.
mode of transportation.
That's cool.
Yeah. So the company was started in 1873 by James and Gilbert, but it didn't start as a chocolate company. That's not what they were starting out to make. They wanted to open up a grocery store. And so they moved to St. Stephen. They're from Springfield, New Brunswick originally, which is just north of Fredericton. And they moved here and they opened up the grocery store.
Wow.
But they weren't getting a lot of business because they were number 23 in town. There were already 22 grocery stores.
Wow.
Yeah.
In a small town.
In a small town.
Wow.
It was pretty busy back then.
Right,
Not
right,
as busy
right.
as it is now,
Yeah.
but it still wasn't large in land mass,
Yeah.
that's for sure. We had a lot of different things. We had an axe factory here at one point. We had a soap factory.
Okay.
And of course, people lived here and then worked over. in
Right,
the-
right.
Over 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, Gilbert actually had quite a few children, and his oldest son is Arthur Ganong.
Okay.
Now, Arthur, he had an interesting diet. Every single day of his life, he ate 3 pounds of chocolate.
3 pounds?
3 pounds. Yeah, that is actually what 3 pounds of chocolate looks like.
You eat that much every day?
Every single day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And weird coincidence, in 3 pounds of chocolate, there are exactly 83 pieces.
Okay.
And Arthur actually lived to be 83 years old.
Wow.
Kind
Wow, that's yeah, what a coincidence.
Yeah, I feel like he should be studied.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That's cool.
That is cool, eh?
It's weird. I do get a lot about, you know, if he had any kind of health problems because of all the chocolate. Well, I'm not really sure, but he lived to be quite old, so, you know, he probably didn't. But he had some children of his own, and Whitten is his oldest son.
Okay.
Now, Whitten, he loved chocolate too. Not nearly as much as his father, though. He cut back. He only ate 2 pounds a day.
2 pounds a day. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, it's quite something. My dad, he used to live in town. He used to see Whitten going every day with his 2 pounds of
Okay.
chocolate. So he's like, oh yeah, I remember seeing him go there. And his brother had a son. Now that son is David Ganong, and he took over the company next.
Okay.
David was the one who introduced a lot of the company's nut-free products, like fruit snacks. And he was also the one who oversaw the new factory and the expansion of the new factory as well. And so he's done quite a bit. He also received the order. So, you know, it works out pretty well for her.
Kind of like some weird kind of coincidences throughout the entire history in the family. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some weird coincidences. For
That's
sure.
cool.
And then there's Nick, her brother. He's the vice president of contract manufacturing and innovation. So he kind of helps invent some of the newer products for the company.
And they still live here in town and everything?
Yeah, they still live here in town. And, you know, you can see them around at a lot of stuff. They have a lot of stuff in the community.
That's cool.
They come to the museum every once in a while. I've met all 3 of them. They're all like really
That's
nice,
awesome.
which
That's
is
awesome.
good too.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, it's kind of nice because a lot of these, you know, big companies, they say that they're family run or they seem to be family run because they still have the name.
Right.
But nobody in the family is actually involved anymore.
Right. Well, these guys definitely are. It's been
Yeah.
a family tradition from day
Exactly.
one.
That's what I kind of like. It still actually is a family
Yeah,
business.
that's really cool.
Yeah. And of course, then we have this bench. Now, it might look like any old bench, and it kind of is, and it kind of isn't. In the factory, it was a big deal.
Okay.
Because, you know, on this bench, there used to be a giant bucket of candy at all times. And if you were sitting there, you were happy. And it wasn't the candy, believe it or not. It was actually because if you were there, you were outside the office, and you were either getting a raise or a promotion.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, the candy helps, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool.
Are we allowed to take picture here?
What?
Are we allowed to take pictures?
She's allowed to take pictures. Cool stuff from the
Yeah,
factory.
this is the stuff in the factory. Some stuff is still used. I think that machine in the back there, that was the Paladine machine. And so you can kind of see it in some pictures, the old pictures. We've got some pictures on the wall. I think there's one in the other room of that machine actually in operation. And so here they are, they're making chicken bones. They're all still
The
made by
famous
hand.
chicken bone.
The famous
Yeah.
chicken bones, yeah.
And they're all still made by hand. And
Wow.
it's a lot of work. You have to pull the candy and pull it until it's the size of a chicken bone. So
Wow.
you have to be quite strong to be able to do that as well. And for example, there's the starch molds there that they used to make to put the chocolate in
Yeah.
for the different shaped chocolates.
That's cool.
And they're actually made out of this. The recipe for the starch molds is pretty much the same recipe as they had for the Ganong peppermints.
Okay.
But there's more starch in it, part of the building as well. And you can see kind of, there's that little kind of my whole life that I've never noticed that. And I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I really hope it was. So the video mentioned Ganongs did invent the first Valentine's heart box.
That's
but
cool.
It wasn't intended for Valentine's Day
Oh, okay.
originally. This was the first box, and it was meant for Christmas.
Okay.
Valentine Christmas.
But there was a salesman, and you know, he didn't want to go out on Christmas and sell these boxes because he wanted to stay home with his family.
Yeah.
Understandable. And so he kept those boxes, and he really wasn't supposed to. And he went out January 1st of that year, and he sold them for Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay.
And obviously, it was a big success
Yeah.
because now every single company
Yeah.
makes heart-shaped
Yes.
boxes.
They all do, yeah.
You go into any store in even January,
Yeah.
you start to see them.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And of course, there is birthday.
Okay.
And yes, there was chocolate inside of it when she got it. That's a common question. People always ask me that. And you know, it is a very nice box, but you know, an empty box for your birthday
That's right,
isn't
that's
the
right.
best gift.
That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know how much it held exactly when there was chocolate
Yeah.
in it, but maybe at least 3 pounds worth, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
At least. And so here we have the famous Whitten commercial that he did.
My family have been making quality chocolates in Canada since 1872.
Oh.
These are our very best. Selecto, 21 deliciously different centers. dipped with chocolate. There are 8 chocolate nuts and delectables, nougats, caramels, and cherries. We still hand dip the almonds. Take it from one who knows chocolate. Give our best this Christmas. They might cost a little more, but they're worth it. Look for the whole coat, Ganong delectables.
That's cool.
It's a fun video, and you know, I brought my parents through here last summer, and
Right.
my mom remembers this video very well. And
Right.
nobody really tracked a lot of this stuff in the beginning.
Well, back
nobody
then,
had no idea.
right, in the
They had
late
no
1800s,
idea.
nobody was tracking anything properly, right? So,
Yeah, and they had no idea it'd become a huge success.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
right.
some of like the origin of the Palamine is kind of a mystery. No, there's a couple of different stories, but
Okay.
nobody knows which one's true. And so then we've got the Evangeline Line here, which was one of Ganong's most popular lines of chocolates and candies. And they did retire this in the 1970s, but
Okay.
for a very long time she was kind of like the unofficial mascot of Ganong's.
Oh,
And you can
okay.
see 'cause she's on a lot of stuff.
yeah, a lot of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the advertisements, their letters, chocolate bars, chocolate boxes. They made a special Evangeline pin.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a lot. And the Evangeline bar was actually the first chocolate bar that they put nuts in, so that was another Ganong invention.
Okay.
Yeah.
A symbol of romance and sweetness.
That's cool.
And we've got some of the old boxes here. They look a lot different than the ones
Well,
we
even in
got
the video,
now.
they were showing them like every box was touched by hand.
Yeah.
You know, with the wax paper being covered over the cardboard and stuff. Like that's a lot of work.
Yeah, some of it is still done a lot by hand.
Really?
Because the boxes are origami now, I'm sure. It's the heart-shaped boxes were the most complicated ones, you know, because they had to fold an timeline of the old boxes, and
That's really cool.
you can kind of see how popular Evangeline was because there's actually 2 of them here, because there was a lot of those.
Wow.
And this is only a small fraction of what we have. We have so many more.
But they would have.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You know, shipping back then wasn't as reliable as it is now,
Right.
so they didn't
Yeah.
want the chocolates to get squished. And then inside of each overseas box, they had a little maple candy to kind of remind the soldiers of
Oh,
home.
okay.
Yeah. Although,
really cool.
you know, if you stood on it now, it probably
Yeah.
wouldn't hold up. And then in the 1920s, Ganong decided to put some famous actors and actresses on their boxes. So that guy there actually might look a little bit familiar. It's Frank Morgan. He
Okay.
played the Wizard in the original Wizard of Oz movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Then we get to the 1930s, and in the round one there, I know a lot of people, you know, their grandparents or their great grandparents had that exact box because,
Wow.
of course, it came out during the Great Depression.
Yep.
And they would reuse the chocolate boxes and they would use them for other things, and that's why that one especially, like, they look so fancy.
Yep.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
so that people would buy them to use them for other things. And also Ganong started putting different things in the chocolate boxes, like sewing
one's
kits
cool.
or
Okay.
different things, so that people wouldn't feel as guilty about buying chocolate because they still had to, you know, make money, but
Right.
people weren't buying nearly as much chocolate.
But I can remember my grandparents and even my parents, like chocolate boxes, saving them, and they would put knickknacks in them
Yeah.
and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, my great grandmother was always like the cookie
This
kit.
one's so
Right, right,
fancy.
exactly.
He'd go to open it and
Yeah.
it wasn't cookies, it
Yeah.
was sewing
Everything else
material.
but, yeah.
And then of course this is one of the most interesting and kind of crazy box stories is the story of George and Edward.
Mhm.
So obviously Edward was meant to be king,
Mhm.
and that didn't happen. But the problem was Ganongs had already made the Edward box. And you can see it's right there.
Kink.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And so then I can just imagine the panic of the people who were working in the factory when they were sitting at home and that news came on and they heard that. It's
Yeah.
like, oh no, what do we do? And so what they did was they painted George's face over top of Edward's, and you can see it's the same picture.
Yeah.
And then they added the jacket to cover up some of the medals that Edward had that George didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was kind of like old school Photoshop.
Yeah.
You know, it worked out well in the end, but probably it wouldn't have been fun to be the one scrambling
That's
to
right.
paint over, which definitely would have helped. And then there's the World War II boxes, and so they was well, nobody really wants to see Winston Churchill's face. It's not the most appealing thing, so that's why it's kind of on there. And the boxes in the 50s and 60s were quite colorful
Right.
and fun.
That's really cool.
And then you'll notice a big shift in the packaging from the 60s to the 70s. And that's because 70s, that's when David became president and he kind of overhauled the packaging and the marketing. You can see the difference in this 100th anniversary box, the logo, versus any of the rest of these boxes. He changed the logo as well. That was his mark on the company. It's kind of a different font. It's less fancy, and it's just Ganong now. Yeah. And then we get to kind of the early 2000s, and the packaging is very similar now to it was then. So yeah.
I definitely remember a lot of those boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
I can't remember if they still make those sun-kissed ice cream or not. I remember eating a lot of those. I don't think they ever actually tasted like ice cream, but they looked like ice cream, and that was good enough.
They look good.
Yeah.
I remember that Delecto.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And these are all of the different things that the family has kind of done in the community. So Eleanor and Gwyn Ganong actually owned a cottage at Dawes Point, which they donated to the town once they died, and it's now Ganong Nature Park. And it's a nature preserve. And then we've got David and Brianna also helped raise over $500,000 for breast cancer with the special chicken bone box there. And then
so
of course, Chocolate Fest. It's always fun. We have it every year, but this year it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit different this year, yeah.
Yeah, but we'll still make it fun. And so, this building, it's been through a lot. It's been a factory, and now it's, a museum and a store, and there's other things in the building. And it hasn't been moved. And at the end of this rope, there would have been a piece of lead or something really heavy to hold it open. And then if the building ever caught on fire, the door would slam shut to try to preserve parts of the factory.
Okay.
Because we didn't have
cool.
sprinklers or anything, yeah. So it's, I don't know how well it works. We still had 3 fires, but it's an idea. And then of course, the other method was buckets full of water.
Bucket of water, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
The only problem is that the buckets actually disappeared with the water.
Oh, really?
People stole them.
Wow.
Because there weren't a lot of chairs in factories, so people would take them, turn them over, sit on them.
Use them as a stool.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then they take them home too. And they, but not because they need it. It's not comfortable. And of course, it's quite a large bucket.
Yeah.
You put chocolates in it. It's going to be
heavy.
heavy. You're going to
Yeah.
want to set it down.
Okay.
There go your chocolates and your job.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it was a serious offense.
What a cool idea.
Yeah, so, it definitely helped the bucket theft at least. And then we've got some pictures from the old factory. This is the Palamine machine I was talking about earlier. And she's got this stick, and that's because even though we had a machine to make a company, but we only have 2.
Okay, there's still some done by...
Yeah,
Wow.
we have 2 hand dippers left. And so to see a room full of them,
Yeah.
it's just, wow.
How things have changed.
Yeah, they misses them because they were discontinued last year. And I get comments about them all the time. But there is a reason they were discontinued, other than the fact that demand was not as high as it used to be, which is true. That is because there were 3 peppermint machines. They were built in 1889, specially built for Ganongs by somebody that they hired from England.
Okay.
And his family made a similar product over there. But during the 1903 fire, they all fell through the floor and broke.
Wow.
And so they took 3 of the machines, they kind of found all of the parts that still worked and kind of combined them into one working machine.
Okay.
And they've been using that same machine since 1903.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, that's another reason why the peppermints aren't a thing anymore, because the machine's over 100 years old.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's technically the oldest working candy making machine in the world, but we don't get the certification because it's not technically one original machine.
The original, right?
Yeah,
So it was put together by
it's put together
pieces,
by
yeah.
3,
Yeah.
so,
So cool.
And then of course the obviously we can see from this, during the Great Depression, this elevator was actually powered on steam because they couldn't afford electricity as much, so they found a way to work it with steam, which is kind of neat. I personally wouldn't take my chances and attempt to go in that. I just, no way, I'm good.
No.
But, I've had family members who've worked in here. My dad used to work here. He's been in the elevator while
Really?
it's still operating.
Wow.
And he said, oh, yeah, it's fine. There's no deal. I couldn't, yeah, I'm not going to take my chances there.
It's
And,
cool.
It is.
and we got our caramel maker. He's in there. Guess we have limited space. Making caramel in an elevator for real is a fire hazard. So don't try that at home.
Yeah, don't try that at home, right?
Oh, yeah, Monday, Friday.
And people can actually, when you,
Yeah,
and they don't mind like
Watching.
come through and being watching.
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
or-
they just don't like their picture taken when
yeah,
they're here.
yeah.
Oh,
But they're probably
okay.
used to people watching them.
Yeah,
now,
they're used to that. They don't even notice it anymore.
That is cool.
But yeah, that room is actually, that's why this room feels a lot cooler than the rest, is because it has to be...
To keep the chocolate?
Yeah, it has to be regulated to keep the chocolate at the right temperature. Cane dip chocolate, if you turn it over and it has the Ganong logo on the bottom there,
Okay.
then it's dipped by hand.
And that's
They
hand
put
dip.
it, yeah, they put it on that.
Oh, okay, okay, gotcha, yep.
We've been using that paper since 1889, so not much
Cool.
change in that process.
Wow.
At one point, there were over 100 different chocolates that they did by hand. That's a lot of them right there.
That's a
That
lot of
was-
work.
Yeah, it would be a lot of work just to come up with the designs for the
Right,
top.
yeah.
Like, they don't have to be
Hand
completely
dippers.
individual.
Wow.
It's
And,
cool though. See?
It is. It's kind of neat to see.
Like I've been wanting to
By
work
having
in
your
a
hand covered in chocolate.
to work in a chocolate
For an
factory.
8-9 hour shift.
Yeah, I feel like after a while you kind of get tired of chocolate.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, this is also Eleanor Deacon. She was the fastest hand dipper they ever had in the company. And fun fact about her, she was the woman that Wing dated for 14 years.
Oh, okay.
That was her. And so
Okay.
she and Wing got married. And it's kind of like a perfect love story out of a movie or something. The CEO of the chocolate company
Yep.
falls in love with the best hand dipper.
Yeah. They can make a movie out of that or something,
Yeah.
right?
And it takes them 14 years to
Right,
get married.
right,
So
right.
it could be a really good movie.
That's cool.
The same way. And
Your hands be covered in chocolate all day.
That's cool. See?
Well, good afternoon, welcome. My name is Brenda, and I'm one of the last 4 remaining Ganong hand dippers left. There are only 4 of us that do know the actual hand in a chocolate trade of dipping. 1964 was the last year they trained. They have not trained anyone since.
Huh.
Back in those days, 3 to 5 year training was required.
3 to 5
3 to
years.
5
Well,
years.
over 100 different centers that we had to learn to dip. Along with the ability to dip them, we also had to be able to make the correct design or pattern that went on top. To a trained individual, that person would know exactly what that item was. Now, it's not too bad today. We're down to approximately 35 handmade, hand-dipped items. These products, the chocolatier store in the front has exclusive rights to them. It's the only place that you can buy a Ganong hand-dipped product. Working with the milk chocolate, in the factory, we use milk, we use a dark chocolate, and for pastel shades, white, yellow, pink, sometimes green, depending on the season and location. Now, all of the chocolate that I have mentioned, they all have one thing in common, that's their temperature, but they all work with at a different consistency. Now, proper temperature for chocolate, 87 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit. 1 or 2 degrees warmer or cooler, and will ruin the effect of the chocolate. The centers, well, these centers are a fudge center. They're good. Everybody today has told me just how good they are. But regarding the hand dip product, they simply would not be considered of a high enough quality. The centers for hand dipping, they are made exclusively for that purpose, and in a minute, you'll understand why. The next thing would be your coating of chocolate. If the same piece of fudge were to get through the enroller, well, the enroller is the machine that puts the chocolate coating on, but it has a blower. It's going to blow off any excess chocolate. But when the hand dipper puts the chocolate on, for those that love their chocolate, 2 to 3 times
That's
more
cool.
chocolate per piece than if it had been done by the machine. I wonder if I could have someone start passing out some samples.
And she's not even making a mess. It's not chocolate all over the place, you know?
Turn them over, what we call first
Right.
reason.
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to give you a little bit of information regarding this yellow wax paper.
Yeah,
It's
that was the
called
one.
Lost. It does have the GB Ganong imprint raised up on it. Well, that paper was patented in 1888 by Gilbert Ganong exclusively for his hand-dipped products.
It's cool how she did the designs and
It's the same every time.
yes.
So when you have a moment to look at the bottom of your chocolate, you should find the imprint GB Ganong or only on the bottom of a handmade, hand-dipped product.
Oh,
Where you can
cool.
see this imprint, never on the machine-dipped item. The GB, it stands for Ganong's Best. Something a little later on, or perhaps if you'd like to come back for another treat, please come back. Enjoy your tour.
That's cool.
I watch that video all the time.
Mission going,
Yeah,
so they would do it, I guess, on a need-to basis. kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like you have to almost, when you sign on to be an hand dipper, you have to tell them when you plan to retire.
Right,
Just
right.
kind of prepare, because
Yeah, for
3 to 5
planning.
years is a long time
That's
to go without
crazy.
them.
But it shows you how serious they took it and how proud of it that they
Yeah.
were, right?
Yeah, it's a lot more complicated than just sitting
Yeah,
and
for sure,
doing
for
chocolate.
sure.
Which, it looks so easy when you see them
Yeah.
do it in like the first video.
Yeah.
They're doing it, and it's like, when you actually think about it, there would be chocolate everywhere, and the
That's-
design.
No,
Yeah,
like
I would have a
the
mess.
way how she do it.
Yeah, like,
It's really cool.
I could, the design especially, they're almost all identical designs.
Yeah.
I've seen them on the actual chocolates, like they're very similar.
Wow.
It's,
Like-
It's incredible.
it's wild.
If I were the one who will do it, everything will
Oh,
be chocolates everywhere.
I was being
Exactly. That's what I'm supposed to say.
It'd be everywhere, it'd be all over, it'd be in my hair.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that pretty much concludes the tour. So I do have some treats for
Oh,
everyone.
yay!
So we have some
Ah,
chocolates
that's
and some
awesome.
keychains.
That's cool.
Oh.
So I don't want to eat it now.
We will preserve it.
Are these hand-dipped ones?
No, those are the machine dip
Those
ones.
are
Okay.
cool.
The
We
hand
have
ones,
our
you can get them
treats.
out front. They're the only place you can still get
It's the
them.
only place that you can still get the hand-dipped
Yeah.
ones.
I like it though because it's kind of neat. Because the one thing with chocolate here, you can get all of the chocolates you want and none of the ones you don't like. You get a box and there's
Right.
some that you don't like. Oh, very
Exactly.
exactly.
You get what you
every single chocolate that goes in your box.
Yeah.
I like that. It's kind of like you can customize it a little bit.
And that's why with the variety boxes, there's always something there that I wouldn't like.
Yeah, I think you can customize. You can kind of, if you're getting it for a gift for somebody,
Yeah.
you know what they like. You
Yeah.
can get just the ones they like. Like it's kind of.
It's very cool.
It's a neat idea for sure.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, I eat my fill of the hand chocolate over the summer. I have my family hooked on them too, and I never tried them. And then I brought some home from the store last summer, and well, we had them pretty much every day.
Yeah, that's fun.
So you actually do the jelly bean.
Yeah, it takes them 7 days to make jelly beans, to make a batch of jelly beans. It's quite the process. To
Is
get
that
the
all
dye
sold
and
done
stuff.
in the new factory?
Yeah.
Everything that was done here is still being done there?
Yeah, pretty
basically.
much. There's certain products that we're making that we didn't make before,
Right,
or stuff
right.
that we discontinued, but yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of it's still the same.
Okay.
Chicken bones and palatines especially, they're kind of
Yeah.
the oldest ones that are still
Okay.
being made. Yeah.
Those are,
I'll let you touch the artifacts.
sorry.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very, very cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat story for sure.
It's cool, 7 days to make a jelly
Yeah.
bean.
You see those big jelly bean things in the video, and, you know,
Yes.
it kind of makes you want to stick your hand in it. Yeah, we got some of the other
Do you
boxes.
still have this palomine
Yeah,
chocolate?
we do. They're quite popular. We sell a lot in the summer, especially. It's because we normally do them as fundraiser for chocolate fest.
Okay.
In the summer at certain places.
Oh, I remember these chicken bones
Oh,
when
yeah,
I first just got here.
they're
One,
famous,
yeah, one of my workmates, and then she asked me to try chicken bones.
Okay.
And it's spicy.
Yeah, it's got a bit of a sweet,
Yeah.
spicy to it.
You know, if you're not aware of what you're going to eat, it's kind of a
Right,
shock.
right.
Yeah, so she was just like waiting for my reaction because she said, "Oh, this is so famous here." Blah blah blah. I was like, okay, so I'm excited to try that. And I was like,
Yeah, there should be a warning. It's like, yeah, there is cinnamon in it because you bite into it expecting candy.
Right.
yes, and she said there's actually chocolate inside, and okay.
It's like when you bite into a cookie and you think it's chocolate chip, and it's this ping pong box here. It's actually specially made for that salesman who sold the
Okay.
chocolate chip boxes on Valentine's Day.
That's
He
cool.
got quite the promotion and ended up very high up in the company
Yeah.
when he retired, so they made him a special box.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's
Well, that
nice.
was incredible. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Very,
Thanks
very
for being
cool.
such a great tour.
Very, very cool.
So that's the end
Fun
of
to
our
have people ask questions
tour.
and kind of,
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Like it's nice in a small group too. You can
Yeah.
feel comfortable asking those questions.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. It's not a big group. It's
yeah.
not a big space.
Nobody wants to speak up, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
something cool, something sounds good or whatever, but
Yeah, exactly.
very cool.
Sorry.
No worries. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it.
No, yeah, we'll do for you.
The what, sorry? What's that again?
I'll get your picture on the box here for you.
Oh, cool.
Hey guys, so that's the end of our chocolate tour.
Go down to the store.
We can. So hope you guys love it, and if you like it, please do like, subscribe, and share this video. Bye bye.
Want to walk down to the store?